Hello everybody, in today's video I am doing another watercolor landscape painting. This time I'm going to include a few more elements that I haven't tried yet. I'm going to be adding some water and I'm going to be coming in with a more close-up tree as well from my last landscape painting where I did everything very far in the distance. This time I'm going to focus a little bit more as well as learn how to practice watercolor painting some actual water as well. I'm doing sort of like a lake scene here, but you can see I've got a rough sketch down of where I want to have everything sort of placed out and just giving me some rough sort of guidelines, just really lightly drawn on there. I don't know if I'll follow them 100%. I will have, as they imply that they're guidelines, so I might go over or just branch out a little bit from what they are, but that's what the preliminary sketch sort of is for. But what I'm doing now is I am starting off with the sky and coming in with a dark blues and greys, and I'm just placing them on very wet onto the page. What I did before placing any color down is I gave the area where I'm painting the sky a nice soak with just clean water from my brush onto the area to let the paper soak it up so we can get some awesome faded effects in with our sky, as I found that this is really helpful and useful for getting in your sky detail and making it look super realistic with very little effort. As you can see here, I'm just going in and placing color, not worrying about where it's going to go, as it's all going to dry and mix and come together to create an awesome lovely sky. Okay, so now we have our sky finished, and while it's slowly fading together to get that awesome sky texture and color in the background, I'm going to be going onto another area now. Now this area I haven't wet down and I'm keeping dry, as I want to try and give off the effects of like ripples in the water, and that's exactly what I'm trying to paint here, the lake in it. Now I have carried on and used a lot of the colors that were already used in our sky, but just adding a little bit more blue to it, as I want to make this a lake and I want to give it the effect of like ripples on the water. So you can see here I'm very scratchily placing my brush over here. Now it is on the paper that we've placed it down, like I said, is completely dry, so we get some interesting texture over the entirety of the piece. And it's just a matter of coming in, grabbing my paint and swishing it around to the point where I feel happy with it. Now I am purposely leaving some areas white to give that sort of reflectiveness off the water itself, and we get that nice little shines and sparkles. Try and get that is what I'm going for, that you can see that there are some slight waves in the water, so giving good overall parts with it. Now one other thing I'm going to be doing too is I want to darken down the front area where I have that little section of land in the foreground. I want to give that area just a little bit of darkening in the color, so we've got like a little bit of shadows, but because it's also coming more into the foreground, we want to put that pull that focus a little bit further forward, so adding a bit of grays in there, some darker blues to really get that in, and just trying to mix that together overall and just going as far as you feel with it. Well, for me, I'm just making out where I can see that I want to have it, so you get a good overall picture of, the waves, well, not so much waves, but the water closer to it is more in focus than out of focus that we want to go into the background. So it's just working on and pushing and pulling it to where you feel happy with it and where I'm going to feel comfortable with it as well. Okay, so once I'm feeling happy with the water, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in and do one of the mountains in the background. Now I'm going to do something different here than what I've done just before in my previous watercolor painting, is I did the mountains all the same color in the background, so I wanted to try and separate it out a little bit. I'm going to have one big green, nice and lush mountain, and the other one I'm going to make sort of like a more arid, like rougher color of the mountain. So I'm going to start off by focusing on our nice big lush green one first, and I'm going to layer this up to try and hopefully get a nice rich color, because as you can see here we're getting very light colors, but that's one of the techniques with watercolors, is you actually want to start quite light and then slowly build up into your darker colors. And this is working great for landscapes in particular, because you can make all those areas that aren't so rich in color. The faded out background and the areas that you add more and more pigment to will start becoming more and more focused and more towards the foreground. So it gives a great effect in landscape painting. Like as I've said in my other videos, as well, as I'm still a new artist, so I like learning all these interesting and new techniques and mediums that I've never really used before, as I'm definitely still a complete beginner in watercolor painting, as it's nothing I have ever really tried before. Within the last year is the only time that I've actually ever used watercolor, so building up these skills and learning some fundamentals has been extremely fun, and it's giving my art journey great what should I say, like excitement and passion for trying out these. And I've really enjoyed watercolor in particular. I've always loved the effects that it gives off, but with doing these landscape painting is surprisingly how messy and rough you can be with placing colors down, and how they all blend together is really cool and fascinating, and it really is super fun and satisfying to do. So I really do enjoy doing that, and it's definitely something that's different, that's always been from my sort of artistic style, which is I've tried to learn everything. So I try to have everything sectioned out and very rigid in its structure. By all means, I'm not a great artist or anything like that, but I definitely try to segment everything off, and okay, this is how you do this is how you do that. Whereas watercolor seems to be very flowy, and it doesn't matter if you go over the lines or things flow into each other. They become, like Bob Ross says, happy accidents. So it's really cool working in that way and training my brain to trust the process in this medium. So it's been super fun to do. So now I have that nice lush green mountain in the distance pretty much done. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with the a nice brownish, like ochre color mixed together, because one thing, like I said, with learning the watercolor medium is also with not having a rigid structure that you sort of follow doing watercolor, especially landscape painting anyway, is that a lot of colors are always mixed together and there's never exact amounts. Is since I also do miniature painting, the way I paint miniatures is you have a special bottle of paint, you use that paint to paint that color, generally is how it goes, and that's how I've been doing it for years. And so doing something like this where it's you've got a limited colors and then you just mix them together and everything mixes so well and nicely, and you get really interesting colors really quickly, and it's not too hard to change a color. It really gives awesome ways to experiment in places, and you don't have to focus so much on this color is for this and that color is for that. So that's been really cool and fun to learn as well. Probably makes it a little bit harder if you want to try follow along with like I'm doing here. If you were interested in trying to recreate this, is it's a mixture of browns and things like that, so you really do have to test your brain and mind to see if you can match a lot of these colors, because I can't give you exact measurements or what type of colors I'm using for when I'm doing like my miniature painting tutorial. So this is more free-flowing, but it's definitely more interesting and fun as an exercise. And as you can see there, I also done like the little shoreline on the foreground as well to give that a little bit of color. Now it's not, I don't intend it to be a beach, but you know, the area where the water is hitting that land, I want it to be, of course, like eroded away, and that we can see the ground coming through, and just pulled back a little bit from there. I've added in the greenery to hint that, you know, you've got grasses and stuff growing in there, and it's just a matter of coming around and messing around with it to get where you're happy with it. So for this, I felt like the mountain in the background was just feeling a little too light, and I wanted to darken that in a little bit, add in a few bits of shadows, and really try and just darken it down a little bit. I wasn't happy with how light it is, but I really like how light it is in the foreground with that like shoreline area. So it's always about adding more colors. But one thing that I definitely have been learning with watercolor paints is that adding it in while it's either wet or dry doesn't make too much of a difference, and it really, at any stage, it gives you different effects. But it's really cool that you can just add in colors at any point and they all sort of work together. So that's been super fun to learn. So now that I feel happy about those areas with the mountains in our foreground and we got that little bit of grassing area, now it's time to add in our texture for the grass. I've just sped up the footage a little bit here because it's a lot of tiny little brush strokes overlapping one another, so I thought I would speed that up so you can get the idea a little bit faster and you can see it more come together quicker as well. So as you can see, I'm just going in with a finer tip brush and just picking out those little strands of grass. Now, none of them are perfect, which is interesting and fun thing. Like if you were to look up this picture a lot closer, you would see that some of them are like square shaped, some of them are nice long and thin and look like grasses, some of them are just blobs. That's one real fun thing with landscape painting, is you can be super rough with it because you focus on the entirety of the picture and you look at it from a closer distance, not a closer distance, that doesn't make any sense, from a further distance away. Everything merges together nicely, and because watercolor blends nicely and you have those different colors in there, it gives the effect of what you're trying to go for, and your brain sort of fills in what it's actually supposed to be. So that's really cool, and one thing that I've definitely been learning while doing the handful of landscape paintings that I have done over the past few months while practicing this and doing them here for YouTube, is that you don't have to be so precise with everything and try to make everything look like it's supposed to in landscape painting, because your brain fills in what it's supposed to be, and when you just look back at, or you walk away from your painting after a few minutes or so and you look back at it, you go, oh, actually I can see what it's trying to be, and it looks far better than what it is, because I think I just like zone in and get like tunnel vision and just focus on everything so narrowly that I forget to look at the big wider picture. And that's what landscape painting is training my brain to do, is to look at the wider picture. And now I've placed all those little blades of grass and tufts and all that little nice foliage that we have there on the ground. I'm going to now do a big bold part of my painting, and that is I'm going to be adding a tree there that like I had in my original sketch. Now this is something that I haven't actually really done before, is painting a tree too much into focus with things. I've done a couple of little like test paintings in there, and I was really happy with how the artwork looks, and I was sort of getting a little bit afraid of adding in this tree, but I was like, I had it in my original plan. I've got to be bold with these things, and a lot of landscape painting is, of course, you paint in layers, so you paint the furthest away thing first and then you come forward, and not getting scared when you're painting over areas that you've already painted, because like I intended that those mountains and the water was all supposed to be part of the background as well, so I can't be too precious with it. I've got to be, you know, bold and get in there and place on what I was intending to do in the first place. And it's just a matter of coming in and trying to make some natural like branch shapes. I'm not used to drawing trees, so this is still like new to me. I'm going with a sort of a dead tree there, as it's right on the edge in that sort of rough sandy area next to the water. So I wanted to go with a nice sort of just old dead branch is on there, and not focus too much about foliage yet, because I haven't really learned how to paint leaves on trees and that sort of thing. So I thought I'd just keep it just straight with the tree itself. The other hard thing that I was learning while doing this as well is to how much to fan out this tree and make it as part of the focus, because it can be also quite easily able to make things become super overwhelming and just too much on the piece. So it's sort of just keeping this balancing act of how much detail I want to add on to this thing, how big I want to make it, how much of the background to cover up, and also how dense you sort of want to make it, and how much you want to make it as part of the framing. So those all come into play when you're doing landscape paintings as well, and that's a technique and muscle memory and that sort of thing that I've got to build into myself to learn these types of things and what looks good. So I just keep going until I feel like it looks good, and also looks sort of realistic as well. That's one thing. I don't really draw realism, and doing that is doing landscapes like this is definitely helping me get adjusted to how to draw in realism and how to make things look a lot naturaler, and make them look like they are actually what you're trying to do here as a tree. you know, you can very easily make it look cartoony, but since I've done the whole part of the landscape as, you know, more realistic, that I need to try and make this tree look more realistic as well. That's why I wanted to focus on the branches, because I felt like if I was going to start putting in some foliage on that tree, I was going to start making it look a little cartoony, so I was a bit afraid of that, so I just wanted to focus just on the branches there and just get them to a point where I was happy with them. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to play around with the landscape painting just a little bit more, maybe add in some other areas, fade out some areas, just trying to add in a little bit more to the point where I'm happy with it, and we'll go into some glamour shots. So let's go and see those glamour shots and see how the painting came out in the end. And there you have it, with just a little bit more fiddling around. I've gotten the painting to a point where I'm happy with it, so I'm going to leave it there. So I hope this video has been helpful for you guys. Whether you want to use this video to follow along and try and recreate what I have here, or you just want to use the video as some inspiration in your own paintings. But with all that said, guys, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video.